Good afternoon, my dear friends. Before I begin my talk, let me thank the ever dynamic, the man behind this conference, Dr. Bitul Gupta, for giving me this opportunity. I'll be talking about deep prescribing in older patients, polypharmacy to oligopharmacy. This is what William Osler said 200 years back. The first duty of the physician is to educate the masses not to take medicine. And that was the time when not many medicines were available, but now when there is a pill for every ill. And it is good that people are living up to old age. But many of them have a chronic disease. And when you prescribe medicines based on guidelines for each disease, the number of medicines the patient has to take becomes very big. And sometimes that itself becomes another morbidity. So I'll be talking about whether we can reduce the number of pills the patient is taking and how to go about it, and whether it has any effect or any beneficial or harmful effect. So I'll be talking about what is polypharmacy, risks of polypharmacy, causes of polypharmacy, deep prescribing, what, why, and how. There is no clear definition for what is polypharmacy. Most of the studies, it says taking more than 5 medicines is polypharmacy. But when the patient has more than one disease, sometimes we have to prescribe that many medicines. So some others opine that to say polypharmacy, when one takes more medicines than clinically indicated. And study shows that about 40% of people in the age group more than 65 take 5 to 9 medicines. And probably 1/5 of it may be inappropriate. What are the risks of polypharmacy? When somebody is taking more than 5 medications, chances of adverse drug events is 58%. And same medicines taking younger patients, older patients, adverse reactions are 7 times more in older patients. Drug-drug interaction is more. Drug appears more potent. That is, same dose becomes higher when you give to an old patient. Confusion increases. There is chance of falls and fractures. Hypoglycemic episodes can occur. Cost, of course, nowadays the medicines cost is very high. When number of medicines increases, the cost increases. Non-compliance, non-adherence is an issue, and chance of medication errors increase. This is the study published in NEJM way back in 2011. It shows the emergency hospitalization for adverse drug events in older Americans is very high. The symptoms that can occur in old age due to drug itself is a very long list. A few of them are, there can occur syncope, falls, fractures, confusion, delirium, cognitive impairment, constipation, weight loss. When you see a patient weight loss, first thing that comes in our mind is whether it can be cancer or malignant conditions in old age particularly. But it can also be due to medicines itself, which may be secondary to dyspepsia, anorexia, dry mouth, dysphagia, nausea, vomiting. So why is it that the same medicines given to older adults becomes an issue? It is because of the alteration in the pharmacokinetics, that is the way our body handles the medicines or drugs. Absorption, there is decreased absorption will cause delay in peak serum level. If the patient is taking laxative for constipation, it will alter the bowel motility and the drug absorption will also be affected. Distribution of drugs will depend on the water content of the body or fat storage of the body or lean body mass. And depending on whether drug is hydrophilic or lipophilic, the amount of drug distributed in the body and tissue and in the plasma changes. Protein binding alters because the albumin is decreased in old age. It will cause increased unbound form. Unbound form, is the more active form of the medicines. Clorazepam, phenytoin, and warfarin are just to give few examples. Metabolism of the drug also changes, mostly metabolism in liver. So hepatic flow decreases with old age, and the drug metabolism also decreases. The drug is mostly eliminated by kidney. GFR reduces with age. If you only go by the creatine level, it may appear normal. When we actually calculate the GFR, it is low. So we'll have to take all this into consideration to avoid dosing error. What are the causes of polypharmacy? Multiple illnesses, prescribing cascade. What is prescribing cascade? We have given one medicine for a condition. That medicine has side effects. We give another medicine to control that side effects, and that medicine itself may have some other side effects. So like that, the number of medicine the patient is taking increases. Hesitation to stop medicines once it has been started. Like we often give proton pump inhibitors with NSAIDs, and sometimes the PPI is continued forever. Similarly, sedative is given for insomnia or antipsychotic is given for delirium. Most of the guidelines say when we should give a medicine to a patient. It does not talk about when we should stop or when we should not give. And besides the prescription drug, the patient is also taking over-the-counter medications, and sometimes the patient takes some herbal medicines as well. So whether we can reduce the number of the size of prescription, that is deprescribing. It is identify and discontinue a drug that is potentially more harmful than beneficial in a particular patient based on individual patient's care goals, current level of functioning, life expectancy, values, and preferences. Deprescribing is not that we are denying any effective treatment to the patient. How to do deprescribing? Whenever we do, close monitoring is required, and shared decision making. That is, you'll have to talk to the patient, talk to the patient relatives, talk to your colleagues before you go reduce the size of the prescription. These are the various steps that is required for deprescribing. First step is medication review and consider all overall risk of adverse drug reaction and assess the benefit and risk that medicine is carrying, and try to discontinue medicine that is more risk than beneficial effect. And once you have discontinued or reduced the dose, monitor for any adverse reactions or whether the patient's condition is improved or not. If not, whether the drug requires to be reinstated or whether we can continue and consider another reduction of the doses. This is what I was talking about earlier. Same dose given to younger patients and older patients. The adverse drug reactions are much higher in older adults with the same dose and same duration. So whether deprescribing is possible, whether it is any advantages, there are enough literature available which shows that yes, it is feasible. This article is published in British Journal of Clinical Pharmacology in 2016. Deprescribing older adults on mortality and health. It improves the mortality and it improves the quality of health of the patient. But there are difficulties we face when it deprescribed. Hesitation to discontinue medicines prescribed by other clinicians. Fear of deterioration of after discontinuation. Patient is doing well. Whether stopping medicines will cause any deterioration in the patient's condition. And resistance from the patients and family. That is, the patient may say, I've been taking these medicines for so many months or years and it has not caused any problem. Why to stop it? So the first step of deprescribing is review list of drugs. Check each drug for whether medicine started with a confirmed diagnosis or empirically it has been started. Second, efficacy of the drug for the diagnosis. Whether the drug started for a condition, whether it is effective in that condition or not. Any risky combinations patient is taking like NSAIDs, diuretics, and angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors. All these medicines can cause problem. Patient has some kidney disease. Whether medicine has more risk than benefit, and time to benefit is more than expected lifespan. If the lifespan is few months or few years, whether we can continue the medicines, which time to benefit is very long. To give some example, like statins given to prevent vascular events, bisphosphonates given to prevent osteoporosis. Study shows that continuing bisphosphonate beyond 5 years has no further beneficial effect. And this becomes an issue, particularly when the patient has dementia, metastatic cancers, or end-stage organ failure. Then whether the medicine has the effect of prescribing cascade, like amlodipine given for will cause edema. To control edema, furosemide has been given. Furosemide may cause hypokalemia, and because of is that potassium chloride is being added to the prescription. NSAIDs may cause hypertension. Because of hypertension, we give antihypertensive. Amitriptyline will cause urinary tension. To control that or prevent that, we give tamsulosin. Tamsulosin may cause hypotension, which may cause falls and fractures. So just review the list on all these issues. Taking a single medicine compliance is an issue, when the patient is taking multiple medications, compliance or adherence to medication is a big issue. And every time you check for the compliance, if the patient was not compliant and when he has come to use, blood pressure is under control, then maybe you can just stop that medicine. If the patient was not compliant and when he has come to you, BP is high, before you increase the dose of medications, just ensure the compliance of the previous medications. Sometimes the patient comes to you by omitting a medicine in the morning and comes to you to check whether BP is normal or not, but it will not give you much idea about what to do. The same thing applies to diabetes. And if the patient is not compliant, there can occur glycemic variability and BP variability. That is, blood sugar may go up and down. There may be swings in blood pressure may be very high or low. It itself is an issue, it will increase the morbidity. Many medications, this is another concept all of us should know, anticholinergic burden of the prescription. Many medications have anticholinergic action, some obvious, some not so obvious. We know amitriptyline, olanzapine has anticholinergic action, but think levocetirizine given for common cold also has anticholinergic action. It can impair cognition, the increased risk of fall in the age group more than 65 years of age. Just to review the anticholinergic syndrome, peripheral symptoms, there can be blurred vision, photophobia, non-reactive dilated pupil, loss of accommodation response, flushed and dry skin, dry mouth, tachycardia, hypertension. CNS symptoms can occur: delirium, agitation, disorientation, visual hallucination, ataxia, choreoathetosis. So you can just imagine what it can cause to the patient. Study shows 20% of participants more than 65 years of age and ACB score more than 4 had died by the end of 2 years of study, whereas 7% of the ACB score 0 had died. So these two available online, anticholinergic burden scale. The list of medicines, though it is not the complete list, and this list has to be updated on regular interval. A total score of 3 or more in the ACB is considered clinically relevant. And there is 70% chance of 2 or more adverse effects. So just see this ACB score 1. The medicines are chlorthalidone, levocetirizine, metoprolol, hydrocortisone, prednisolone. In the ACB score 3, the commonly used medicines like solifenacin, derifenacin, tolterodine, paroxetine, all these can cause problem in old age. Most important thing in old age to individualization of the treatment. Most of the guidelines are based on studies by RCT, that is randomized control trial. But most of those studies exclude the patient's geriatric age group. So applying those guidelines in old age may not be appropriate. Now, of course, many guidelines are coming up which do consider the old age, like whether diabetes, whether it should be as strict as with the younger patients. In the older patients, maybe we can be little more liberal, HbA1c up to 7.5%. Same thing about control of blood pressure, particularly in frail patient. Maybe 150/90 is acceptable. I agree, and all will agree that trade-off between risk of vascular events will have to do against the risk of fall. Antihypertensive treatment, whether we should continue the patient has low normal blood pressure. Antipsychotics started for agitation in dementia, whether to continue or whether we can stop. There are studies which shows that withdrawal of benzodiazepines, antihypertensives, diuretics, particularly if not given for heart failure, antipsychotics, when we withdraw, it reduces the risk of falling and there is improvement in the memory test scores. And 1/3 of patients, BP is normal 1 year after stopping antihypertensive medication. So it says that yes, deep respiration is feasible and it improves the quality of health of the patient. And always do consider to add non-pharmacological treatment in every patient. That is, think out the exercise, regular exercise, meditation, pranayam, or dietary habits, like quadriceps exercise for osteoarthritis. All these have been underutilized and it requires consideration. So once we decide to discontinue medicine, it requires close monitoring. Reduce one medicine at a time. Communicate the decision to others like family members, to the patient, your colleagues and your junior staff. And decide whether to gradually reduce the medicines or stop altogether. Sorry. So first, the drug which has shown adverse drug events, think about that medicine first, whether it can be reduced or deprescribed. And monitor telephonically all such patients, or the patients should have access to the health care settings where the admission is required when you decide to discontinue medicine. And whenever you add a medicine, the dictum is start low and go slow to titrate to the complete dose. High risk medications in old age. All the medicines do consider for the risk, but some medicines are very important. Anticoagulants or antiplatelet drugs, benzodiazepines, opiates, antipsychotics, antihypertensives like diuretics, antidiabetic drugs, anticholinergics like tricyclic antidepressants, diphenhydramine, proton pump inhibitors. Nowadays, most of the prescription has one PPIs. So this is an issue in every patient. It is more so in the older patients. It increases the chance of enteric infection. And then pneumonia can occur, osteoporosis can occur, they can occur hyponatremia, hypomagnesemia. It can cause microscopic colitis. So please do consider the patient is on PPI for a long time. You can discontinue or you can reduce the dose before you discontinue, because once you stop the medicine, there cannot be dyspepsia. So counsel the patient and reduce the dose, and subsequently you can stop it. Immunosuppressants in old age, chance of infection will be more. And any patients in old age coming with new symptoms or worsening symptoms, do consider whether it is due to some medications. A medication with cause for worsening, fatigue, fall, or altered sensorium. Just to give an example, tramadol. Patient in old age has some pain, or we'll have to control pain. The patient did not suffer. And so it's giving maybe an issue if the patient has some renal dysfunction. So very often we think tramadol can be given, but is it that safe? It is a prodrug metabolized by cytochrome P450 enzymes. So we should avoid the patient has liver disease. It is eliminated by the kidney. It lowers the seizure threshold. Serotonin syndrome can occur, particularly the patient is also taking SNRIs like duloxetine or venlafaxine. It can cause hyponatremia and SIAD, that is syndrome of inappropriate ADS secretion. It can cause that episodes of hypoglycemia has occurred because of tramadol. So we can give tramadol, but it is not so safe in geriatric patients. Maybe you can start with 25 to 50% dose of young adults. This study published in 2011, the data was collected in 2007 to 2009. It shows the list of drugs which can cause adverse drug events. In this, warfarin and insulins are the leading causes. Of course, there are other medicines like antibiotics, digoxin, anti-neoplastic agents, anti-adrenergic agents, renin-angiotensin inhibitors. And nowadays, so many medicines has been added to the list, and there are so many other medicines which can cause adverse drug events. This is another example. This study we published in June 2021 in stroke. In this, the patient had been taking SSRIs following stroke. These TELO studies, the patient were taking citalopram. In other 3 studies, patient were taking fluoxetine. And what it shows is it doubles the risk of fracture. So stroke patients may go into depression, and we do prescribe SSRIs. But after 6 months, chance of fracture increases. So whenever we start a medicines like this in older patients, do consider how long we should continue, or if the patient had been taking, do consider whether it can be discontinued. So there are resources available online also, which will guide us how to reduce the number of medicines in old days. This is one tool, Beers criteria. This is recommended by American Geriatric Society. 2019 updated criteria. It shows which medicines are potentially inappropriate in old days. And this list needs to be revised at regular interval. What is potentially inappropriate prescribing? When the risk is more than benefit, or over prescribing like excessive doses or duration of medicines, or misprescribing, unfavorable choice of medicines or dose or duration, or under prescribing. Not prescribing a clinically indicated medicine despite the patient not having any contraindications to that medicine. This is another very interesting tool. Nowadays, it is considered best practice to follow this tool. Stop or start criteria for potentially inappropriate prescribing in older people. Stop is tool for patients present, and start is screening tool to alert to right treatment. So basically, it tells which medicines we should stop, we can stop, and which medicine we should start in old days to improve the health of the patient. These are other resources available: deprescribing.org, MedStopper, the anticholinergic burden calculator, the Beers list. So high risk medicines I told you earlier. Now high risk patients, old age, of course, and when there is multiple illnesses, the risk is more. If the patient renal impairment, and if the patient having hepatic dysfunction, there is no scoring tool to assess liver status. So we have assessing the tool available for renal impairment, like we have Cochrane Gold formula to calculate the GFR. We do not have such tool for liver disease. So if possible, use a medicine that is not metabolized by the liver, or start with low dose or with decreased frequency. This is another thing we should remember: frail individuals. What is frailty? Even the patient is unintentional weight loss, slow walking, the patient feels exhausted all the time. When you shake hands, the grip appears weak, and where there is self-reported decline activity level. So more than 3 factors, if it is present, we do consider the patient is frail. And accordingly, you do think about the BP medications or anti-diabetic drugs or other medications like duloxetine or SSRIs. And if that factor is 1, 2, 3, it is free fail. And when it is 0, that is considered robust. High risk patients continued not eating properly. If the patient is memory is impaired, if the patient is diabetic with multiple complications, Parkinsonism, when there is history of fall, whenever you can come across a patient with history of fall, first review the list of medicines, whether some medicine is responsible for the fall and whether that can be stopped. And again, for the antiplatelet, anticoagulant medications, maybe it is given for on appropriate doses, but it increases the risk of bleeding even after a minor event. Hypotension, if the patient has previous episodes of hypoglycemias, then adjust the dose of anti-diabetic drugs, because each episode of hypoglycemia increases morbidity. It affects the heart, it can affect the brain. And the patient's dementia, every medications need to be considered before we add on to the list. So the point is, whenever you come across a patient in the old days, any medicine we start, do consider these aspects. And we should consider whether the medicine should be given for a short duration, long duration. And every time the patient visits you, review the list of medications and its compliance. This is what Philippe Finel, a French physician, told 200 years back. It is an art of no little importance to administer medicines properly, but it is an art of much greater and more difficult acquisition to know when to suspend or altogether omit them. Thank you.